A pleasant day to everyone. Join me in learning math the easy way. I am teacher Aileen and I will be your math teacher today. At present, I am teaching math to grade 8 students, and the purpose of this video is to help my students understand well the topics or the lessons that we have in our school, the lessons that we are discussing. Now, if you find this video helpful, you may follow, share, or even subscribe to this channel. Now, let's start. Okay. Special products. My students keep on saying, "Teacher, I don't know how to do that. Teacher, it's so difficult. Teacher, I don't like math. Teacher, it's so difficult. It's so difficult." And, when you are thinking that math is difficult, it will be difficult. But if you're thinking that it's easy, then it will become easier. Okay, so let's deal with special products. Let me help you understand the key concepts of special products. In algebraic expressions, there are special forms whose products are readily seen, and we call them special products. Later, we will learn how to get the square of binomial, the square of trinomial, and the sum and difference of terms, and also the cube of binomial. We have 4 topics for the square of binomial, but for today, let's just have the square of binomial. So, we will do this one by one topic per video. So, let's start with the square of binomial. The square of a binomial is expressed as the quantity x plus y squared or the quantity x minus y squared. So if you will look at that, we have binomial and the word square. When you say square, you just have to multiply a number or a variable by itself twice. And when you say binomial, it's a polynomial with 2 terms. Remember that there are different kinds of polynomials, but this time we will be dealing only with binomial. So, a square of binomial consists of the square of the first term, twice the product of the first and the last, and also the square of the last term. So, later I'll show you how to do the squaring by giving you 5 examples, 4 of which will be equations and 1 will be a word problem. So let's start with the examples. The first example is find the square of s plus 4. So when we are looking for the square of a binomial, the first thing that we have to do, as we have read a while ago, we get the square of the first term, twice the product of the first and the last term, and also the square of the last term. So when finding the square of the first term, it's just simply multiplying the first term to itself. So the first term is s, multiply it to itself, s. The product will be s, but since we have 2 s's here, the exponent will be 2. Then, twice the product of the first and the last. Twice means you have to multiply it by 2. Multiply the first term, which is s, and the last term, which is 4. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8. But don't forget that there is a variable s. And get the square of the last term, which is 4. So 4, just multiply it to itself. 4 times 4 to get the square. So 4 times 4 is equal to 16. Now, in getting the square of the binomial, you just need this s squared, 8s, and 16. You just have to put them here. S squared, 8s, and 16. But if you will look at these terms, all of them are not negative. So all of them are positive. Let's put positive signs here. So the square of s plus 4 is s squared plus 8s plus 16. Remember also that a square of binomial is a perfect square trinomial. So it has 3 terms and it's a perfect square. So let's go to example number 2. In example number 2, it says there square x minus 5. A while ago, we had a plus sign, but this time it will be a minus sign. So, x minus 5. How do we get the square of this kind of equation? First, the process is the same. Just get the square of the first term, which is x, by just multiplying it to itself. There. And the product will be the square of the first term. And the next is to get the product of the first and the last term, multiply it by 2 because it says there twice, the first and the last. But this time, since it's negative, let's put a negative sign. If you will recall that when you are multiplying numbers with the same sign, the answer is positive. But when you are multiplying numbers with different sign, the answer is a negative number. So 2 times negative 5 is equal to negative 10. And don't forget the variable x. The third step is to get the square of the last term. The last term is negative 5. So getting the square is just simply multiplying it to itself there. And remember, we have the same sign, so it will be positive 25 because 5 times 5 is equal to 25. Now, since the square of a binomial is a perfect square trinomial, we will have 3 terms. Get the x squared and negative 10x and 25. But since 25 is positive, so let's put a positive sign. Oh, the square of x minus 5 is equal to x squared minus 10x plus 25. And it is a perfect square trinomial. Now let's go to the third example. In our third example, if you will look at it, x has a numerical coefficient of 3 and y has a numerical coefficient of 2. Now, to get the square of this kind of equation, the process is just the same. Now, you can do it in shortcut way, or in this video, I'll still show you how to do it for you to better understand what we are discussing for today. So the process is still the same. Get the square of the first term. The first term is 3x, then multiply it to itself. 3x times 3x. 3 times 3 is equal to 9. And the variable x, since we have 2x, the exponent is 2. The second term will be twice the product of the first 3x and the last 2y. So let's multiply. 2 times 3 is 6 times 2 is equal to 12. And we have variables x and y. The next is to get the square of the third term, which is 2y, the same as 2y here. So we have to multiply it to itself twice. Remember that getting the square is just simply multiplying it to itself. Now 2 times 2 is 4 and y squared. Now, the answer should be a perfect square trinomial. So, get this 9x squared and 12xy. Let's put a positive sign here because it's positive. And 4y squared, positive also. Now, the square of 3x plus 2y is equal to 9x squared plus 12xy plus 4y squared. This is the third example. Now, let's go to another example, and this time we will have exponents. C has an exponent of 2, and D also has an exponent of 2, and still it is negative sign. In the law of exponents, when you are multiplying variables with, let's say, the same variable but different exponent, what you have to do is to just add the exponents. So get the square of the first term, 2c squared, simply multiplying it to itself, 2cn squared. Look, 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Don't forget the variable c. But we have an exponent here and here. An exponent also here. What we have to do is to just add the exponent. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Now, let's go to the next part. If you know already how to do this in shortcut way, then you can do it. But in this video, I'm just showing you how to do it. Okay, so 2, because it says twice, times the first, which is 2c squared, times the last, which is negative d squared. Okay, so since we have one negative here, therefore we will have a negative sign. 2 times 2 is 4. Don't forget c squared and d squared. Okay, so there, the last is negative d squared multiplied by negative d squared in getting the square of the last term. Both negative, they will become positive. So just copy the base, which is d, and add the exponents. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So there you have it. If you have an exponent, this is how we do it. And the final answer is 4c to the 4th power minus 4c squared d squared plus d raised to the 4th power. And this is the 4th example. And I hope you're still following. Okay? But later, if you have comments on my examples, my lesson, you're feel free to comment. And let's have the last example, and it's example number 5, a word problem. It says here, what is the area of a square whose side is 2x plus 1 units? Okay. Remember that when we are getting the area of a square, it is equal to the square of the sides. So here, we can apply the square of a binomial since we have a measure which is a binomial with a variable x. Okay, so the side is 2x plus 1. So this is the side, and we have the square. So this is just the same as what we are doing a while ago. Find the square of the first term. So 2x times 2x is equal to 4x squared. We're doing the shortcut already. Then, the second term is twice the product of the first and the last. 2 times 2 is 4, times 1 is still 4. And it's positive. Don't forget the variable. And the last term is twice the product of the last term, which is 1. 1 times 1 is equal to 1. Now, the area of the square is 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. And don't forget the sign. It should be in square meters since we are talking of the area. So I hope you understand well what we have today. Remember that when we are getting the square of a binomial, it is consist of the square of the first term, twice the product of the first and the last term, and also the square of the last term. I hope next time you can still watch, you will still watch my video on finding the sum or the product of sum and difference of terms. We